one of the things that I learned from whistleblowers from the cabal itself is that they have to work within something they call the rules. And this is very, very important. So I really want to make sure that this gets into the film. The rules are a body of spiritual principles that they must follow in order to be allowed to exist. Now, what do I mean by allowed to exist? I mean that they are aware that there are benevolent forces that will prevent them from achieving their goals unless we give them permission to enslave us. Now think about that. Well, I didn't give them permission. So why did they put this plan for 3 world wars on display in a book that's hanging there open behind glass in the British Museum Library of London? And those 3 world wars that they're outlining are exactly World War I, World War II, and the war on terrorism. Because the rules state that they have to tell us what they're doing. Therefore, if we allow it to happen, we have consented to tyranny, we have consented to enslavement. Now, if you get into the secret history of the cabal, this was rediscovered by Queen Elizabeth, the original Elizabeth that we've heard about from the 1500s. Queen Elizabeth's royal astrologer, a man named John Dee, who is the prototype of the wizard with the long beard, the hat, and what he did was to rediscover, through these ancient documents that were in the Vatican, the technology of how to access what they considered to be spiritual beings that were useful to them, but what we would consider to be demonic or evil beings. These beings need to be accessed through a very complex set of rituals and ceremonies. You cannot just ask for them to show up. You have to follow very elaborate and specific protocols. If you follow those protocols, it's like having an IP address, which is what we use to go online in order to notate a website. Every website has its own IP address. These spiritual beings, such as Baal and Moloch, which they still do ceremonies for today, such as in Bohemian Grove, there is a giant effigy, stone effigy of an owl. That's the god Moloch. The god Moloch goes all the way back to Rome and Carthage, in which they were offering child sacrifices to this god in exchange for power. So John Dee rediscovered the technology of how to draw the magic circles, how to say the right incantations, how to actually do black magic on a governmental level. This is what people are going to have so much trouble with once disclosure happens, is that these people actually practice black magic, and they are very, very good at it.
Agenda 21. This is the agenda for the 21st century, hence its name. These are from its own documents of various kinds. Agenda 21 involves this: an end to national sovereignty, state planning and management of all land resources, ecosystems, deserts, forests, mountains, oceans and fresh water, agriculture, rural development, biotechnology, and ensuring equity, i.e. equal slavery. People told what their job will be, major restrictions on movement, creation of human settlement zones, get to them as we go along, mass resettlement of people who are forced to vacate land where they currently live, dumbing down education, mass global depopulation in pursuit of all of the above. This is a map of America as desired and projected by the Biosphere Programs and World Heritage Program. And whenever you see diversity or sustainability or Agenda 21, they're just connecting interchangeable terms. So the red on this map of America is designed to be core reserves and corridors with little to no human use. Can you imagine the numbers of people to be removed to make that possible? Then you've got all the yellow bits, buffer zones, highly regulated use. And normal use are just the green bits. Look at it across America, 300 odd million people. And the idea is to make vast areas of land, ban it from human use and human activity on the basis of saving the environment, when what it is taking it all over for the less than 1%. What they want to do is concentrate the masses in high-rise ultra tiny boxes where they can be under surveillance 24/7. Now, get the people off the land. And so what they're doing, they're changing the laws and they're making economic changes which make it impossible for those that are not of the elite to stay on the land. And so what they're doing under Agenda 21, and America is the primest example, is they're just not funding rural communities. They're not funding rural schools. They're not mending rural roads to make life impossible, to get people off the land. Now, this is a big area where people get scammed because they don't think that is possible, manipulating the weather to create extremes of weather to get people into situations that remove them from the land. But actually, Dr. Richard Day was actually a weather manipulator during the Second World War. People say it's not possible. Of course it's possible. It's happening. It goes way back. Even a BBC radio documentary exposed a few years ago that the Lynmouth flood in 1952, which killed people and devastated that village in Devon, was actually created by the RAF, who were doing an operation called Operation Cumulus, also known as Operation Witch Doctor, in which they were putting sulfur into the atmosphere above this, in this area. And actually people before the massive flood say they kind of tasted and smelt sulfur in the air. And what it did was create an enormous rainstorm, which created the flood, which created the Lynmouth disaster. This is 1996, an official US Air Force document describing the artificial creation of floods, hurricanes, droughts and earthquakes, and it continues, weather modification will become a part of domestic and international security and could be done unilaterally. It could have offensive or defensive applications and even be used for deterrence purposes. The ability to generate precipitation, fog and storms on Earth or to modify space weather and the production of artificial weather are all part of an integrated set of military technologies. They are manipulating the weather like crazy. This is Agenda 21, human settlement zones. As you saw, it's in their own documents.